Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Pretend Football. Now, my name is Sike Manders, and with me, as always, is Maul Paderos Maul. The time is approaching. It's so very nearly playoff time.
Yeah, it is the peak of the entire Pretend football season.
Absolutely.
Some would say the buildup to this final couple of weeks has been phenomenal. And honestly, I think there are quite a few teams that just can't wait for the release.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. You know, we've had some late season chest beating and some absolute lies told by Eric Menzie, who is a scofflaw and a rogue, and I simply cannot believe that anyone would take anything he says seriously.
Absolutely. I mean, for one thing is certain, you and I have never, ever worked in his mailroom.
It's true, not even under alternate names. So please don't check, because we never did.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Not once.
On with the show. You know, wiser men than I have a little saying. When you give someone a hammer, eventually everything begins to look like a nail. Would it not be true then, were you a beaver, that everything eventually would begin to look like a tree? Well, I will tell you what, Gage Laser had all the game called, pretty much down to the wire here between the Roswell 51ers and the Cooter Institute Beavers. Initial projections called for the 51ers holding a 10-point victory margin. And with that fantastic news, the Glorpers traveled to Pink Taco Memorial Stadium, anticipating a very early win. Leading the charge was Bo Beetlejuice Nix, and he stumbled over those high projections. He only managed 17 for 10 points out of his projected 19. That is not a great start. Oily Derrick Henry missed his projections by 5 points, adding to the Glorpers' woes, and TJ Hot Jupiter Hawkinson fell off the wagon as well, again, by 5 points. You know, there were some glimmers of hope, sure, in the Glorpers roster. You had TJ Whitehole Watt, who put up 12 points on the board from a projection of 7, but that was really the story of the day, ladies and gentlemen. A ramshackle rampage, rumbling all over the field, but would it be enough to douse the pesky Beavers? Well, not holding back, the Beavers burst onto the scene, leading with Jordan Brother Love, who put up 25 for 10 points. George Pickens bullied some aliens for 14 points, and Courvoisier Zach Charbonnet had a big game, putting up 11 points, outdoing his projection by 5. Yeah, Gay, this just feels scripted at this point. Come on, man. Not even trying anymore. Anyway, the Beavers were having their own production woes. But I will tell you what they did. They backed the big leg of Chris Boswell, baby, who smashed 12 kicker points through the outrights. Yeah! Kicker points, baby. Oh, the Glorpers could only watch in horror as their lead crumbled away and the scoreboard flashed up the final tally. They were already headed for the mothership. Kib battles back to stun the Glorpers 90-88, a big win for the Beavers. The answer to the Glorpers' victory, however, was riding the pine. Russell Wilson sat idle, 31 points under his belt, which most definitely could have shifted this loss into a victory. Well, Coach Greg was said to have quoted the age-old line delivered stone cold by the Fresh Prince himself, "Hey, welcome to Earth."
When your back is up against the wall, you need to execute. There's no room for failure. Coach Cody's Cumberland crew, our champion, was in such a spot this week. They faced off against the best team in the league and division rival, Coach Lewis and Droppin' Loads, this week. The Loads were led into battle with Icky Lamar, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson, woo, and his 29.75 points, leading all scorers in the game. Josh the Hammer Jacobs, he was solid once again, scoring 21.7. And Brian Thomas Jr., perhaps the most unnamed stock player I've ever covered, scored 18.7 points. Puka Nakua was also solid, in this one, catching 14.8 points. Now, the Pickle Boys would not be salted away so easily. DJ, in the midnight hour, he cried, more, more, more. Billy Idol fist pumped his way to 19.7, and Saquon was actually mortal this week with only 18.7. Nico Crunchers Collins had a nice 17.9 point performance as well. This was actually a really close game and a very important one for the playoffs. In the end, the poor showing by crew captain Justin, hot and sour Herbert, falling 8 points off of his projection when everyone else around him excelled, ultimately sunk the champions. Both teams put up a game fight, but Coach Lewis and the Loads take the win, 126.95 over the crew, 125.45. This may be the game Cody looks back at should next week's game not go his way, and he finds himself on the outside, looking in.
Well, all right. You guys remember? You remember?
I do.
All the bullshit that we said last week. Well, none of it mattered. Absolutely none of it. You know, the teams that could have didn't, and now we are left with 3 teams and 2 slots.
Yep. 3 teams looking for 2 possible playoff spots. Now, let's start in the Death of the Dinosaurs division. We now know that the Lakehurst Dirigibles,
Yes.
They are currently in first place. They are in a win and in to the playoffs. If they win, they will go in to the playoffs as the number 4 seed with a division title.
Yes.
Currently in first place. In week 14, they play the Beavers. Now, they can lose this game, but if the crew win, then the Blimps would find their way out of the playoffs.
Right.
So if the Blimps lose and the crew lose, then the Blimps would take the final 8th playoff spot.
Yes. Complicated. Now, in our second scenario here, let us say the Beavers win.
Yes,
They win. They grab the division title.
absolutely.
However, if the Beavers lose to the Blimps, they need the crew also to lose. And then we have to start looking at the tiebreakers. And that's when it sort of leaves our hand and enters the commissioner's realm.
Yeah, it's a little convoluted because typically the first tiebreaker in the league is set up as a head-to-head matchup. But as it turns out, due to some scheduling quirks, these 2 teams have not met each other.
Yeah, that is a problem.
So the crew and the Tombstone, or rather the crew and the Beavers,
Yes.
could end up with identical records. And then it's just a matter of how the tiebreakers roll. Now, the crew, they have another scenario all their own. They have to play the Tombstone, not necessarily an easy game at all.
No.
But if the crew should win that game, they would be in. They would take that final playoff spot. If they lose, they can still get in if the Beavers lose and all of those tiebreaker scenarios roll out.
That's again, it's a very tricky situation. Currently, it really seems like the Dirigibles have the best chance, albeit a crazy chance. They can lose and still kind of get in.
Yeah, basically the other teams, they have to rely on some other stuff to kind of happen. But what do you think, Sike? We've got these 3 teams. We've got 2 playoff spots. Who's going to win that Beaver and Dirigibles matchup?
You know, looking at both teams as I have, Coach Greg has been playing pretty good football as of late.
I do agree.
And Coach Medeiros, he's had his highs. He's also had his lows. So, I don't know. In this particular scenario, my gut says Beavers, but my brain says Blimps.
Yeah, it's a tough. I mean, the Blimps are riding a 4-game winning streak currently.
Sure, absolutely.
And the Beavers, they just suffered a really bad loss just a couple of weeks ago to the Get to the Choppers. So
Yeah.
it's hard to know exactly how it's going to spin out. But if I had to put my money on it, I would put my money on the Beavers. Now, the crew. Do you think the crew can beat the Tombstones? Again, Coach Scott, he's nothing to play for right now.
Yeah, it's true.
He could bench everyone. He's locked into the playoffs. Do you think that he wants the champ in the playoffs and he starts to play some bad players? Or Does Coach Cody get walloped by the deadman?
The Tombstones have had their struggles this
For sure.
particular season.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, injury riddled like none other.
He must have a hard heart to play football
Well,
in a pretend way this way.
I mean,
He's dead.
he's dead.
Yeah. So he does. It's all calcified. But all that put aside, Cumberland Crew, we all love them, right? However, this late season, they have had inconsistency.
Yeah.
Inconsistency game after game. Now, it is always possible that the Tombstones just decide, whatever, we don't care.
Yeah.
We can lose. It doesn't matter, right? But I don't think that is in their blood.
No, I don't think so either. I'm all in on the Crew for this one, and I'll tell you why. He's a defending champion. I don't think it's ever happened in the history of this league that a defending champion has failed to make the playoffs in the next season. So I'm all in for the Crew. I believe in Coach Cody. Don't let us down. Don't let me down. But just know that should you lose, we will mock you roundly.
Of course, as is our right, because we have the camera and you do not.
And I mean, we are the broadcasters.
That is true. We have a slight advantage. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't actually matter.
It doesn't actually matter.
And oh, by the way, if you're in the wagering markets, don't listen to us. We don't actually know anything.
Also, it does With all of those pictures painted, all of those portraits done, everything is falling into place. It is truly the end of the season. It's upon us.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see how this all shakes up. There's only 2 playoff spots left, and there's 3 teams vying for it.
Mhm.
All the rest of you can, I don't know, stop playing. And in the case of some teams, they've already stopped playing.
It's true. Some teams have stopped playing as early as week 4.
That's what's good about it, though, is that it gives them extra time to, click that like button,
True.
subscribe or comment.
Very true.
You've got literally nothing else that you can do this week except for watch this program and give us a nice little click.
Absolutely. You could comment like, help, please, I have fed. Oh, God. That one's free. That one's free from me to you.
Hey, or maybe you're just looking for Gage Laser's advice on some roster picks or players to start this week.
I would advise caution if that is the case.
I've heard Gage he's been walking around the studios.
And when isn't he? He's never doing his job. Clearly.
Clearly.
Well, do you have a word of the week for us?
I do, and it's a big word. Worth quite a number of Scrabble points.
Well,
it is penultimate.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. This is we just finished the penultimate week of the season.
Indeed.
We have just one more week to go to decide who is going to be on the in and who is going to begin suffering from that deadly fed.
Absolutely. That is well said. I couldn't have put it better. So I do have a prop to victory here. For those interested, you may see this in a little Sike Manders program coming up in the off season, perhaps. It's an EMF meter, right? But let's not think about this. Think about these little lights, this little graph. All right. It's all the way buried in the red. You have procrastinated for this long, and you cannot procrastinate any further. Get done what you need to get done now, because it's already too late, my friend.
That's right. I would agree. And for a great number of the teams in this league, your season is already over. But we do thank you for your time and effort. But the show must go on. I really can't wait for the playoffs to start. around the studio, we're really excited to see how
Absolutely.
the championship weeks roll out.
Just want to see this all shake down, and we would like it. We would like to watch it with you.
Maybe
There's
we
nothing
will.
wrong with that.
Maybe we'll live stream it.
Maybe we will, but maybe we won't. Who knows? You guys have been pretty mean to us as of late.
I mean, we certainly haven't been friendly.
It's true. Well, in any event, from all of us here at PSBN, this has been our flagship program, Pretend Football Now. Fantastic.
Oh, pretend football now.
Ah.